Hi everyone, we are back with another lecture tutorial demo. This one is on drawing a sphere. So, a sphere, no matter which way you turn it, okay, when you're drawing it, is always going to be a perfect circle. So you can see I'm turning this sphere, and no matter what direction it's going, it's always a perfect circle. So, and then actually we have this foam model that has like a wood grain effect on it. So if we're looking at it straight ahead, you can see these lines are going straight across. But if we change the angle of it, you can see these lines, they turn into ovals or ellipses. Okay, so that gives you an idea of it. So in terms of drawing it, like we've been doing, we drew the basic cube, we drew the basic pyramid. The basic sphere is just a circle. And it's going to be a circle no matter, we can skip this part where we do all different directions because no matter what direction, it's going to look the same. So what defines it is the shading, okay? So let me put a thing on here. And so we can see right now we have multiple sources of light, okay? So it's kind of evenly lit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my main lights, okay? Right, so we're seeing the shadow a little bit more, and then as the light is coming from a particular direction, so like right now, I'm going to turn it this way, you can see we've got the shadow on one side and the highlight on the other. And then if I took that same light and I moved it around the other way, oh, it's making a terrible shadow, but you get the idea. The shadow moves like that. So since you can't do like a bunch of different orientations for this, I want you to just try a couple different lighting situations. So here's an example that I did. Okay, so these examples, one thing about, the top one is very smooth, the bottom one is very smooth. Whereas the top one, you can see it kind of has a texture to it. Even though the gradation from dark to light is smooth, the surface texture of it is kind of like hatchy. So that can create a cool effect, but what I want you to do for the purposes of this exercise is go for something that is smoother and a little more realistic. So we'll call that done. So what I would just want you to do for your sphere thing is, right now the light source is from the top right? So try something different, maybe try top down. So we'll have a sphere. Okay, so maybe it's got like a spotlight coming down. And one thing that I wanted to point out right now is that's really different about the shading for a sphere versus a pyramid or a cube is that rather than having, with a cube, we have these like harsh differences because we have these hard sides. With a sphere, the angle of the surface is slowly changing gradually. And so as it slowly changes, the amount of light that's shining on it changes, okay? So instead of having these harsh shadows, okay, we have these ones that gradually fade from dark to light. So if we're imagining that there's a light source coming from the top, okay, now we would start adding some things in. Before I do that, when you have to do this kind of like delicate shading, what I do is for shading, it's actually better to use a more blunt tip rather than something's really sharp. And so for the purposes of these exercises, I actually use two different pencils. They're the same kind of pencil. They're both number 2 pencils, but one of them is really sharp for precise thin lines, and the other one is kind of dull. This one's dull for shading. So that can be helpful. So I'm actually going to switch to the dull one. So I know I've got a light shining down from the top. This is going to be my darkest area. As I'm moving up, you can see, excuse me, I'm kind of curving to make this curve thing. And as I'm moving up into this area, I'm not even like pressing down on the paper. I'm just laying my pencil on the paper and moving across it. So I'm not even like putting any pressure down. I'm going to leave this white. And now I'm going to darken here. I tend to work on the side of going a little lighter because it's a lot easier to go darker, to add more, than it is to subtract. One thing that I'll see people do sometimes is they'll use their finger to smudge, which you can do. And it can make it look a little more realistic. But I personally don't like it because it's the tip of the finger is just so blunt. It's so big that, you know, it's hard to have, like, you don't have a lot of control, and sometimes it can all like end up like blurring together to be the same value. But if you want to do that, you can. Artists use these blending stumps that come to a point so you can target specific areas better. And another thing that it does is it prevents the oils from your fingers from getting into the drawing. So there's these little cone-shaped paper things called blending stumps. I'm just going to go in. I'm just going in and I'm reinforcing what I want to be dark. And now at this point, I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean up my edges a little bit. I think I took off a little too much over here, so I'm going to add a little bit more in. So yeah, so that would be something coming from the top. Now, of course, it would be casting a shadow down here, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're not going to worry about cast shadows. So that's it. So you just have your basic circle up here, and then try a couple different lighting sources. Okay, and that's all for spheres. Thank you. Bye.